Hello everyone, today in this video I am going to deal with a story of class 10th, that is A Letter to God by G.L. Fuentes. The story depicts a story of a farmer whose name is Lencho. He worked like an ox in his field. He was very hard working. He has grown corn in his field and the corn is fully ripe and it is just waiting for a rain. But the rain turned out to be violent and the rain turned into hailstorm, destroying all his crops. And that cultivation was the only means of his survival, and that hailstorm destroyed all his crops. It means it destroyed all his hope of his survival. He was in a hand to mouth situation now, but he don't lose his confidence, his faith in God, and he thought to write a letter to God. Now let's see in this story whether his letter was responded or not. The major theme of this story is faith can move mountains. It means if you have faith, everything is possible. You can do everything. You can make impossible a possible one. Optimistic approach toward life. We should never lose our hope. We should always be positive. We should look at things in a different manner when something has happened, something bad has happened to us. Instead of looking at that thing in a negative manner, with a narrow mindset, we should look at it with a wider mindset, and definitely some solution will come out of it. And after all, we all are child of God, so God is definitely going to take care of us. Now the characters in this story are, that is Lencho. We have Lencho is the main character. The story revolves around him only and the members of his family. The second character is Postman and the next character is Postmaster. So Lencho, this postmaster, and the post office has to play a very important role in this story. Now coming to the story, Lencho was a farmer, lived with his family on the crest of low hill. He was an ox of a man, worked like animals in his field. Cultivated corn, the field was full of ripe corn, dotted with flowers. Corn needed downpour. Lencho was eagerly waiting for it. Big drop of rain began to fall. Could see huge mountain of clouds approaching in the northeast direction. Compared raindrops to 10 cent and 5 cents. So I have divided this story into different parts. So the first part is quest for rain. Lencho, he is a farmer. He was a farmer. He used to live on the crest of hill. Now what is crest of hill? Here you can see in this image this house. This house is located on the crest of hill. So this is crest. So this man, this Lencho, he used to live on the crest of hill with his family, and his house was stand-alone house. It means there was only one house, and that too it was his house only. So he lived there with his family, and he was very hard working man. He worked like an ox in his field. He worked like an animal. He was quite hard working man with a very high determination. And he cultivated corn, and his cultivation was very good. His corn was fully ripe. It was full of flowers, dotted white flowers, dotted flowers. The corn was fully ripe and it was dotted with white flowers. The only thing for which he was waiting is that was for rain. So now that corn was fully ripe and he was waiting for a rain, as that crops need a rain for its final growth. Before it would be harvested, it needs a rain. So Lenchu was eagerly waiting for rain, and he made a prediction that definitely there it will rain tonight. And after few minutes of his prediction, after some time of his prediction, he could see that it started raining, and he could see the cloud in the northeast direction of the sky. So when it started raining, he compared the raindrops to 10 cent and 5 cents. So the raindrops which was bigger in size, he compared it to 10 cent, and the raindrop which was smaller in size, he compared it to 5 cent. So he grew very happy. When it started raining, he grew very happy. Why? Because he has worked very hard, and he was only waiting for rain only, as after this rain his crops will be fully prepared for harvesting, and he will be able to benefit from that, and that was the only source of livelihood for his family. So he grew very happy when it started raining. But what happened next? So hailstorm changed fate. So what happened then? That rain converted to hailstorm, destroyed crops, field was white, get covered with snow as if covered with salt, corn was totally destroyed, commented that even a plague of locust would have left more than this. So now what happened? He grew happy. He was quite happy when he saw that it has started raining. He even compared the bigger raindrops to 10 cent and the smaller one to 5 cent. But what happened? After few time, what happened that weather became stormy, and what happened? The whole area get covered with hailstorm. Hailstorm started falling. Hailstorm is something, it's like a ice which fall along with rain, sorry. So here you can see in the image that the whole land, the area of field is covered with that hailstorm. So what happened? The whole land, that his field in which he has cultivated corn, that field get covered with hailstorm. It means that hailstorm destroyed all his crops, and that hail ruined all his hope, all his corn, as well as his livelihood. So the whole area, not only his field, the area which was beside his house, the area which was beside his field, the whole area was covered with hail, and not a single leaf was left. So everything, whatever was there in the field, everything was devastated. Everything was ruined. Not a single leaf remained. So now, as it was the only hope of his survival, the hope of his family, now the thing got changed. He has worked very hard on his field, but nature has destroyed all his hope, all his hard work, all his crops. Now let's see what happened. Now he started lamenting. He became very sad. He went in his field. He stood there in the middle of his field, and he was watching. He saw his field with a sorrowful eyes, because everything was destroyed and nothing was left. And then he commented that even a plague of locust would have left more than this. Now what is locust? Locust is the swarm, the insect which destroy the crops, which feed upon crops, and as a result it destroy all crops. So what he said, that even if there would have been a plague of locust, then some not whole crops, but some of the crops would have been saved. But it was that hail was even worse than the plague of locust. So it means that rain had destroyed everything. Now he was quite sad, and then what happened as a result? That night he was very sorrowful, he was not able to sleep, and he was thinking about his future, about the year, the whole year which was in front of him, and he was thinking that how he will be able to feed his family. He thought that throughout this year definitely they will be hungry and he will not have anything to eat and anything to feed his family. But somewhere he grew optimistic, he had some optimistic feeling in his heart. He was sad for a moment because he has worked hard and all his hard work has wasted, has been ruined. But at somewhere in the corner of his heart, he was positive and he had a thought that definitely God will help him. So he said to himself, there was a single hope, and that is a hope of help from God. So now let's see how God is going to help him. A help from God following Sunday wrote letter to God. Lamented on his mendicant situation. Postman saw the letter, laughed heartily, showed it to his boss. So now what he did, as he was optimistic and he tried to console himself for the loss which he has currently suffered, and in order to console himself, what he said to himself, that don't be upset, even though this seems like a total loss, remember no one dies of hunger. So now he is consoling himself that no one dies of hunger, no matter whatever the worst situation it may be, but no one will die of hunger, because all are child of God, and God will never do this thing to his child. So now what he did, he planned to write a letter to a God. So he wrote a letter to God, and on the following Sunday, what he did, he went to the post office. He took an envelope, he put a stamp on that envelope, and he posted that letter, and in an address he just wrote go to God. Not more than that. As you all have written letter, and in letter we used to give a full detail address, but he did not give any address, he just wrote God, because he know that everyone knows God, so definitely it is going to reach it to the God, and he posted it. Then what happened? In that letter what he did, he described his situation, and he said that all his crops has been wasted and he had nothing to feed his family, and he is left with nothing to again sow his field, to again prepare his field. So what he wrote in that letter, I need 100 pesos in order to sow my field again and to leave until the crop comes, because the hailstorm destroyed everything. And he said that if you are not going to help me, then I will be left with nothing, I will not be able to feed my family, and me as well as my family will be hungry throughout this year. So he wrote this matter and then he posted it into the post box. Then what happened? The postman, the man who is supposed to deliver letter on the given address, he saw that letter, and when he saw that the address was given, that is, it means the letter was addressed to God, he laughed heartedly. He thought that someone who is mad has posted this letter, because it's unusual. No one writes letter to God. Throughout the day we keeps complaining to God about different things which happens in our life, but I think no one would have ever written a letter to God, and that's why that postman, he thought him to be a fool, and he laughed a lot, he laughed heartily on seeing that letter, and then he went with that letter to his boss, to postmaster. So now see what happened, what postmaster did with that letter. The postmaster, a fat, amiable fellow, laughed but startled to see unfathomable faith in God. Not to seek faith, hatched a plan, decided to donate part of salary, asked for contribution from his employees. Postmaster wrote a letter to Lencho, put money in the envelope, put signature God. So what happened when this postman went to his postmaster, to his boss? He was fat and amiable fellow. Amiable means friendly. Was quite friendly person. So he was friendly. He saw that letter, he read it, and first of all, he even laughed to see that letter and to read that letter. But at the same time, he realized the faith, and he was surprised to see the unfathomable. It means the faith which can't be broken, something which can't be expressed. So he was surprised to see such a deep faith of someone in God. And then he thought that definitely, in order to not to break the faith of that person in God, he thought that he should do something for that person. Otherwise, what will happen? His faith in God will definitely be ruined. He thought that the person will start, he will not believe in God anymore, and that's why, in order to maintain his faith, in order to not to shake his faith, what he did, he thought a plan. What plan he thought? That he decided to donate. He decided to donate part of his salary, asked for contribution from his employees. So he thought that he should do something. He should do something to help that person, to help out from that, to help him out from that situation, from that adverse situation, and most importantly, more than that, he thought that he should not let his faith break. And that's why he thought that he should do something, and therefore he hatched a plan, he made a plan, he came up with an idea. He came up with an idea that he should donate a part of his salary, and similarly he asked all his employees to contribute something, and so that he may send money to Lencho. So after that, he collected money from all his employees, he contributed himself as well, and then he put all that money in an envelope, and he wrote a letter to Lencho, and in a signature he put a signature of God. He just wrote God in the place of signature of sender. Now see what happened then. Lencho's reaction. So now how Lencho reacted when he received that letter. Went to post office following Sunday, received letter, found only 70 peso, disappointed to see only 70 peso, wrote another letter. So on the following Sunday, Lencho went to post office to collect his letter. He collected his letter, he received his letter, he opened it, and he found only 70 pesos in it. He found only 70 peso. He have asked for 100 peso. He has asked God for 100 peso, but when he opened that letter, he saw that there was only 70 peso in it. And therefore he was disappointed. Why he was disappointed? Because receiving that money was not a sort of surprise for him. He was quite sure that definitely God will help him, because he had undying faith in God that definitely God, we are child of God and God will definitely help me, God will definitely help with what I have asked him. So he has asked for 100 peso, so he had a faith that definitely God is going to send him 100 peso, and therefore he was not even a bit surprised when he received that letter. And when he received only 70 peso, he grew angry. He grew angry. Why he grew angry? Because he has asked for 100 peso, but in that letter there was only 70 peso. This again show the height of his faith in God, that how much he believed in God. So he wrote another letter. After receiving that 70 peso, he wrote another letter. Now let's see what he wrote in that letter. He wrote that letter, he wrote another letter, and he posted it again. He posted that letter. Now that postmaster, that amiable fat fellow who has collected this money from his employee and has contributed himself, now that fellow, he was observing him. Now he himself went to take that letter from that post box, and he opened it, and let's see what it was written here. Asked for remaining amount and requested not to send through mail. Post office employees are bunch of crooks. So in that letter what he has written, he has asked God for remaining peso. So remaining amount, he has asked God for the remaining amount. He has asked for 100 peso, he has received only 70 peso, therefore 30 peso was remaining. So he asked for 70 peso, and again he made another request that please don't send it through mail. Why don't send it through mail? Because he thought that the post office employees are bunch of crook. So he thought that this fellow, he was confident that definitely God would have sent him 100 peso, but this fellow, these employees of this post office would definitely would have taken out 30 peso, and therefore he made a request that this time please don't send it through mail, send me by any other means, send it directly to me. This is all about this story. So we saw in this story Lenchu, a farmer who has undying faith in God, was very hardworking, lost all his crops in hailstorm and was left with nothing to feed his family, and therefore may have been hungry throughout the year, and therefore he decided to write a letter to God, and he wrote a letter and demanded for 100 peso from God. But out of that 100 peso, he received only 70 peso, and that 70 peso came as a contribution from the employees of that post office. The postmaster, he did not want to shake his faith, he did not want to break his faith in God, and therefore he did an act of charity. He collected money from his employees and he gave it to Lencho. But again he wrote a letter and he asked God for the remaining 30 peso, and he again made another request that don't send it through this mail, because these employees are a crook, that maybe that he had something in his mind. He thought that perhaps God might have sent, because he had undying faith in God, and therefore he can't doubt, he don't have any doubt in God. He was confident that God would definitely have sent him 100 peso, but these employees may have taken 30 peso out of that 100 peso. This is all about this story. Thank you for watching this story. Thank you.